Hi, it's Scot Tempesta from Sailing Anarchy with another episode of Retro Boat. Today is so cool. You guys are gonna love this. A lot of people know about this boat, but not a lot of people have seen them. Built in Santa Cruz, a theme like last time with the Express 37, designed to go downwind in waves and surf, 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 surf. This is the Moore 24.
1, 2, 3, listen.
Now, this isn't just any Moore 24. This is what they call the SC, which stands for sports cruiser, I say. Apparently some people think it stands for some other things like stupid cabin. But what this boat has that the original Moore 24 didn't have and doesn't have is a cabin house. I mean, it's a nice looking little thing. I mean, it flows in with the boat nicely. Obviously gives the boat a little bit more room down below. And when I say a little bit more room, I really do mean just a little bit more room. This is a very light boat, about 2,000 pounds, about 1,000 of it is in the keel. Boat's really narrow, so narrow that they had to make it wider when they first built the boat. It's a great story. I'll tell you a little bit more about that, but let's just come on board right here. So obviously you couldn't have a much simpler boat. Really and truly. I mean, everything is here. I feel like a giant on this boat, even though I'm not, because everything's sort of right here. Everything's really small, within reach. The idea of doing the house was, again, to put a little bit more room down below, but when you're steering the boat, you're sitting here, it's no big deal. I mean, obviously plenty of visibility. These boats race generally without lifelines, so if I fall overboard, you'll know why. But when you do any kind of offshore race, they have lifelines on board, but for all the buoy race, all the local stuff, this is how it is. Simple, easy to sail, and super, super quick. And I mean, I'd like to be able to go in depth in the cockpit here, but I don't really think there's a lot to go in depth about. Here the boat is. I want to take you forward though, and I want to show you something funny. So when this boat was based on a prototype of a boat called Grendel, and a guy named George Olson, Santa Cruz, surfer, hippie, like everybody is up there, and stoner. Drew a really narrow boat. The thing was called Grendel, and it ultimately ended up being the prototype for the Moore 24. But when Ron Moore, the builder of the boat, decided to start to build these things, they're like, the thing's too narrow. So what they did is they actually put something inside to pry the boat, to actually force the boat to be a little bit wider. They kind of looked at it and said, yeah, that's good. That looks about right. So they chose that. It's like 6.5 feet, something. It's a super narrow boat. But here's what's funny. It's not even lore, it's fact. So when they did that, it turns out the boats are actually asymmetrical. That is, they're a little wider on one side than the other. Think I'm kidding? Well, let me show you how. All right, we'll use my grody foot as a measurement. So if I just go from here to there, all right, you can kind of see that's what that is, right? Come on board with me on the other side and I'll show you. So if I do the same measurement here, whoops, sticks out a little bit more. That's about 2.5 inches. So all of these Moore 24s are 2.5 inches wider to starboard. They say the boats sail the same on tack to tack, and I've raced Moore 24s a lot. I believe that's true. Just an odd little quirk of the Moore 24. Okay, so there probably is not a more better surfing boat on the planet. God knows there's plenty of them, and the whole concept started in Santa Cruz. And it started right here with the Moore 24. This was the quintessential, and still really is, awesome surfing boat. One reason why, it's super light. The other reason why, super narrow, despite the foot or so that they fattened the thing up a little bit. But if you look at the bow section on the boat, it's really nice. It's got a little bit of bow hollow in there, so the boat will enter into a wave faster, but you notice how the freeboard flares up a little bit to give the boat more volume at the top. So when you drop into a wave, the boat takes off, but because it's light and accelerates and has this buoyancy in this entire front section, these things don't really bury the bow. I mean, Those of you who've been on one in big breeze and waves, they do bury the bow, as anything will, but this boat's the least likely. It's a joy to steer. It's just like fingertip control, and the boats literally haul ass. And the great thing about these boats, I think they started putting them in production in about 1972, and I think they went up to haul 156, I think. This is about, I think, hull number 148, and I think they made about 20 or 25 of the SC versions, the sports cruiser versions. But what's great about this boat, given how old it is, given how long it's been since they actually made one, the longevity of the boat, I mean, they are made so well. Vacuum bag, Brunswick plywood. I mean, super, really nice construction on the boat. You can look at a Moore 24 from virtually any vintage, I should say, and they're all really, really nice, unless, you know, they're put on the rocks or something. The other thing that's so great about the class is it's active. I mean, mostly Northern California, but the fleets are really invigorated. They always have been. It seems like there's always new blood coming into the class for such an older, venerable boat. People understand just how great of a boat it is to sail and how cool the thing is. This is cool. All right, down below the Moore 24, because this is the sports cruiser, it's got a little bit more headroom. The normal boats, as I said earlier, as most of you know, flush deck. So it would normally be sort of like this, and I would sort of be like this. The other thing that's different about the sports cruiser than the stock Moore 24 has a big circular bulkhead that comes here with the deck step mast. This is still deck step, but it's got this pole right here, and it's got a big cutout, so it doesn't have the giant bulkhead. Gives the V-berth, which is pretty voluminous in this thing, actually. I mean, it's nice. I mean, you could sleep on this boat. In typical Santa Cruz fashion, minimalist inside, nothing, absolutely nothing that you don't need. One of the things that these boats are known for, and actually quite good at, is single-handed racing. If you can imagine this, one of my very best friends, a guy named Bob Boys, decided to race his to Hawaii by himself. It was San Francisco to Hawaii, and they were in the single-handed class. There were 3 Moore 24s, and he was first. Beat them all, which is amazing. And 40 years ago, there were no instruments. It was celestial with the sextant. I mean, obviously, no sophisticated instrumentation. When you were out there, and you were by yourself. You were lucky if you ever saw another boat. A lot of times racing in Hawaii is very overcast. A lot of times you just don't see that much, especially if you're on a little boat like this. It's an amazing task. Personally, at the time, we were all like, we were debating whether he was even gonna make it. Like, that's just such a scary thing to do. Now it's not that big of a deal, but back then it was a big deal. And really, the story is really about the testament to the boat, because they are so good at that. Love to go downwind, as I talked about. Easy to sail. The boats are hard to really get in trouble with. I mean, you can, like in any boat, you can carry the kite for way, way too long. And trust me, my friend Bob carried kites way, way, way too long, but he was an excellent downwind steer, loved waves, great surfer, and so he was able to win the race. So this boat has a whole cult-ish sort of phenom about it, in that, wow, Moore 24s, they race them to Hawaii, they race them here, they race them there. I mean, they're great for both single-handed, double-handed, and crewed racing in a one-design fleet. It's a really active fleet, and you know, if I lived up north and I was looking to get in a one-design class, I'd probably get me a Moore 24. Why not? I mean, if you want to go racing and have fun and simplify your life, Moore 24 is a good boat to have. I can't say enough good things about the boat. People that know, that have them, it's the same thing. It's cultish, as I may have mentioned, and the people that sail on them love them too, because they're just so much fun. Boat accelerates quickly, it's quick in light air, not known for going upwind, especially in any sort of breeze. Okay, you can't do everything, so you struggle to the upwind mark and then yeehaw, coming downhill. So this is the essence of the Moore 24. I think it's a great boat, and this has been our little tour. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this video, there's a like button. If you'd like to subscribe, I think that's down there too. And that brings us to the end of this one. For Noblemen Productions, for Sailing Anarchy, I'm Scot Tempesta. See ya.